Oh, hey guys. So, actually, today I wanted to show you guys the ultimate recording and mixing template. Oh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Oh, and it's a bit of a mess back here, but you know what? We'll go over that another day. Got what I needed. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys my template today, but what's more important than the template itself is the concept behind it. So that's what I want everybody to focus on today, and not just the specifics of the template itself. So there's three super important things that this template does. One, it's super organized. Two, if you're somebody like me who wishes you could have a Neve, an API, an SSL console, whichever console, it emulates the console workflow about as closely as I can get it to work in a DAW. And then three, and this is the most important part of the whole template, and why I had to grab this book for the video, is okay, so back in the tape days, whether it was super early, Jeff Emmerich recording the Beatles, or even the tiny handful of modern bands that still record completely analog and won't let a Pro Tools rig within 100 yards of their music, the whole thing about recording to tape is as soon as the sound hit the tape, that was it. It was baked in, it was done. If you were in the studio recording a 12-song album and 9 songs into it you decided you didn't like your guitar tone, well, you were kind of stuck with it. The only other option it had was to go back and re-record all the guitar tracks on all 9 songs. You couldn't just click a button in Amplitude and try a different amp rig, so you kind of had to live with it. So when you're recording completely analog, you have to get your guitar tones set, you have to get your bass amp sounds, your drum sounds, all this stuff. You have to figure all of this out before you even hit record, because there's really no going back and fixing it. Not easily anyway. And so that's kind of the double-edged sword when it comes to modern recording in DAWs. I mean, there's things that we can do now with the click of a button that engineers back in the day, it would take them days, if it was even possible to do. But with that now, we push off every decision and we don't make any. We're trying to mix a song and we haven't figured out what the guitar amp should sound like. We don't know what the drum should sound like. We don't even have the arrangement set. We're just pawning all of this stuff off onto the mix stage. Which, I mean, if you're mixing your own music, okay, that's one thing, but if you're going to pay somebody else to mix your music, that's kind of a dumb way of approaching it. I mean, if somehow you're going to luck out and have like Andy Wallace mix your record, you imagine sending him tracks and all you send him is guitar DIs and go, oh, we don't know what the guitar should sound like, you figure it out. Or you just send him a MIDI file with the drums and go, we don't know what the drum should sound like, you figure it out. Or the arrangement's not even complete and you go, oh, well, you figure it out.
Certainly, you shouldn't hire me to mix this record because I simply cannot give you what you're looking for. And I don't know that any other mixer is going to do it either.
Like, why would you do that? You might as well just walk up to a complete stranger on the street and give him $1,000 and say, I don't know what to eat for lunch. Tell me what I should eat. Here's $1,000. Why would you ever do that? So within this template, there's 2 separate setups. There's the tracking and recording side. So on this part of it, imagine you're in a big studio. You've got your drums, your guitar amps, all that stuff in the studio. You're running through a nice Neve console, all this outboard gear. And then everything comes out of that and is printed to tape or into Pro Tools. And it's all baked in. And in the case of the template, we're printing it to like an imaginary tape machine. So you get all that stuff sorted out, and then everything is printed off into the recording side of this template. And from there, you hide all the tracking sort of stuff, and you just focus on mixing. Because mixing and recording are supposed to be 2 separate processes, and that's what this template does. It completely separates the processes. And if you've done everything well in tracking, once you get to mixing, after you just set some rough levels and panning, your mix should be about 90% there and already sound like a really good demo. Which means your life mixing should be a hell of a lot easier. And then just before we dive into the computer to show you the template, there's one thing I want to go over quick. When I show you the initial template, it's gonna not make a lot of sense, some of it, but I'll show you the blank template and then I'm gonna pull up a session where the template's in use, and that's when a lot of things will click and you'll go, oh, okay, I get what he's talking about. So on that note, we'll dive into the computer and I'll show you this whole setup. Okay guys, so here's the tracking side of the template. Now I just have this laid out how I would want to start. If you're writing electronic music or you're a jazz trio, you'd probably want to set up something a little bit different, but for me, this is a starting point for what I'm generally doing. So drums, bass, guitar, got a few extra scratch tracks, and then some MIDI tracks ready to go if I need them. So what'll happen on every single track is there's going to be the Lindell 80 series plugin right here, and then everything is also going to go through Kramer tape. And then what you'll also see is every channel has a bus send on it, up here. So these sends are what are feeding our imaginary tape machine that'll end up in the mixing side of this template. The other thing with these sends is that every single one of them is set to unity gain, and they're all set pre-fader. Reason for that is I want my gain staging kept intact when I'm sending everything to be printed to the mixing side of the console. Like maybe I have a track and I really want it quiet. Well, if I have that send post-fader, when it gets to the mixing side, it's going to have no level to it. So I want to keep the gain staging intact. Another important thing to note here, for instance on our starting ride where it might end up, we open up the Lindell 80, it's on channel 10. You can see it's also sending to channel 10. Every track is organized like this. If we go over to this guitar over here, channel 24, Lindell 80, channel 24. All this is going to match, and it's going to match on the other side of things too. So as I'm going through and recording, I'm using the Lindell 80 channel strip to set any EQ, to set the preamp levels, any compression I might want to add. Sometimes I might bring in another plugin for compression, like the snare. I really like using the Waves DBX 160 on a snare, so I'll pull that in instead. And I will treat this whole thing just as if I'm in a big studio with a beautiful console and all sorts of outboard gear. So once all that's done, once I'm done recording, once I know the guitars work together, the bass and the drum kit works together, everything's working together, everything sounds good, this is when everything will get printed to the mixing side of things. If we go over here, we can open up the console side. And I've got set up 72 channels on this side. I never use that many, but they're there, so why not? And same thing, for instance, if we go to channel 8, and we open this up, also set to channel 8. And the reason I'm using a Neeb channel strip on both sides is just because, well, if money was no object, I'm 98% sure that there'd be a Neeb Genesis Black in this room. Pretty sure that's the console for me. Anywho, I digress. Now you'll notice all these are imaginary tape sends here are corresponding to these inputs. These are all just regular audio tracks. They just have their input set as buses. I'll show you that here quickly. For Logic, for example, if we go into the I/O labels, everything starts here. So these are just buses I've renamed to, channel 1, channel 2, so on and so forth, even down to the group buses. So, your drum bus is going to be bus 1, percussion bus 2, so on and so forth. Delays, reverbs, all that stuff that's already here. We'll get to that part in a second. So anywho, when I'm done tracking and all that other stuff, all I got to do is take the tracks that I need. We'll just grab a couple for now. I turn these on. Get the same tracks over here, and I just arm them and hit play, and then it prints everything to the mixing side of things. Again, I'm going to open a session in a minute, and then all of this will start making more sense, because right now it seems a little bit, what the hell is he talking about? But just give me a minute. And over here we just have our regular group buses, drums, bass, guitar, all that sort of stuff. Both consoles are feeding into this, so this section's always in use. And then also set up with 4 delays, CLA Epic, which I really like using on vocals. Not sponsored, just saying. And then 4 reverb setup. And so that's the raw template. So I'm going to open up a session now, and all this will start making sense. So give me 1 second to open that up. Woohoo! All right, now we got a session up. Now this is all going to start making sense. Why am I so much more hyper right now? No idea. Anywho, okay, so this is a track my buddy and I did a number of years ago, and here's the session. Everything here is all ready to go. Where do we stop? Right about there. So we got all our vocals, synths, guitars, bass, drums. Everything's done. Everything's good to go. Now we can see our snare bottom here. It's going to send to channel 4 on the Lindell 80. Set to channel 4. And if we come over here to the mixing console, snare bottom, channel 4. On this, channel 4, and this goes through the whole thing. So right now, this track sounds, obviously it doesn't sound like a final mix. It's not finally mixed, but it sounds like a really good demo. So all we would have to do now, take all of these tracks, turn these on, and then arm these, and hit play. And then that's going to record the entire session into the mixing template. The other thing I've done, if you notice, is I've already got levels and panning set. I just copy the same levels and panning over from the mix or from the recording template, because again, it already sounds like a really good demo. So why zero everything out and start from scratch? So now my iMac is like 9 years old now, so there's no way I'm going to be able to record all of this while the screen recording's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print all these down, and I'll be back in another minute. So we'll see you soon. Okay, so everything's printed down, and why wouldn't my computer fan kick in? Anywho, ignore the fan. So, here we go. So, here's all of our original tracks on the tracking side of things. You can see them all up here. And now everything is printed to the mixing side. So all of these plugins, every single one of these is baked in over here, right? We can basically imagine these inputs as tape returns. So everything's baked in, and now it's returning from the tape machine to the mixing console. So now what I do, I take all these tracks, I turn every single thing off. Turn the power off on all of them. I'm going to hit the hide button, and boom, all of that's gone. I mean, it's still there. Pull it right back up, but it's all off, it's hidden, it's out of mind. Now we just focus on the mix. That's all we have to worry about. And if you've recorded everything well, once you're at this stage, once you've set rough panning and levels, your track should sound like a pretty good demo. So I'll just play the chorus on this so you can get an idea. And again, the only thing going on here, there's nothing going on here. The Lindell 80, these are just volumes basically, that's all they're doing. And nothing's going on over here. So let me play this quick. Now again, that doesn't sound like a final mix, it sounds like a pretty good demo, but that's a great starting place for when you need to start mixing. So again, you want to take care of all the heavy work in the front end of things when you're recording. You want to get your guitar tones set, your drum sounds, all that stuff set, figured out, working out together. Once you've gone through that, the rest of the process is really flippin' easy. What makes recording and mixing hard is when you just keep putting off decisions and putting them off and putting them off. And then you get to this stage and you have 8 million decisions you've made. You've got a giant fucking mess. And what good does that do you? None. Now, also in this, there's a number of things I just kind of glossed over or didn't really touch on. I just want to kind of do an overview of this today. So if you guys want me to do like a deep dive into exactly how we get from A to B, let me know and I'll work on that video. I mean, I got like 9 songs we gotta do, so a lot of content we can make. All right, and that is my crazy recording and mixing template. I hope you guys got something out of this. And again, the concept itself is more important than the template itself, so just remember that. And other than that, if you guys have any comments or questions, always feel free to leave them down below. And on that note, I just want to thank you guys for watching. I've been Mr. Jeff, and I'll see you in the next one, so take it easy. Bye.